Okay, let's get to it. I'm feeling good. This is a good time to do it. It has taken me a little while to actually be able to sit and talk from talk a chapter from this book right here, My Life in a Nutshell, a story about my life, something that I wrote. And excuse me. And I have so far in the last 2 months, and I say 2 months because it's been getting a little tricky to find the right amount of time to do this, and making sure that there's not a just to make sure I have a right enough time to do it. Other little things as well that has kept me from doing this particular thing, but the time is right, and it gets no better than right now for me. So what I have talked about thus far, I've talked about my father and his death. I talked about music, and I've talked about pro wrestling. And when talking about those two things, I talk about what they mean to me in my own life. I've talked about being the black sheep in a family and what I mean by that is that they is a family that looks at me and treats me as such based on my parents being this interracial couple, and then here I come, and all the hate they had towards my parents, they took it all and they put it on me because of what I essentially represent of my parents' love and being an interracial couple. And here comes this biracial kid, me. And I talk about being biracial as well, and what that looked like and meant to me as a kid growing up. And and in that same conversation, talking about the talks my father had, and how the world might see me. That even though that I am biracial in my parents' eyes, the world might not see me as that, and the world will more than likely treat me um, like they would treat any other African American person that they would see on the street, and dealing with how people will look and treat me based on the color of my skin, and also how to deal with the police and how they'll treat me based on the color of my skin. So a lot of those kind of talks as I was growing up with my father that I talk about. But today I want to talk about my mother. And I'm even going to read a little something from this book. Normally I don't. Normally I don't read anything from the book. If you like to read the book for yourself, My Life in a Nutshell, the link is in my bio. Go ahead and check it out for yourself. It is the most open I have ever been about my life, about who I am, the from my childhood, teenage years, adulthood, the ups and downs in that, my mental health, the attempts I've had with suicide, um, and how I come out on the other side of it at that point. Um, so I'd like to write another one, but starting from where this book leaves off and continue on. So I might do something like that in another 10 years or so. I don't know. But anyway, so also, like I said, I don't usually read anything from it. Sometimes I make an exception of doing that. I did that for my father. I did that in a chapter I did about music. I'm gonna do that again for this chapter right here for my called A Mother's Heart, which is chapter 10. And just to tell you about this chapter, um, it's like I said, it's a chapter about my mother, and my mother, Myra Stern Thomas. Well, Myra Helene Stern, her maiden name. Thomas, after she married my dad. She was born in 1952, in San Francisco, California. She was born with a birth defect, and as a very young child, excuse me, as a baby, the doctors wanted to put my mother in a special hospital, but her mother, my grandmother Anne, uh, didn't want that. She wanted to take her daughter home, and that's what she did. And my mother grew up having that kind of love that the doctors didn't think my mother would have. The doctors didn't see my mother living as long, but she's lived for quite a. But the fact that she's still here and still living her life, she's proved a lot. She's proved every doctor wrong in that particular decade. Um, but my mother, but my mother did not escape ridicule or name calling. I mean, kids in any decade are cruel when it comes to name calling. And the names that my mother was called, it was really hard for her to go to school. She had an older sister. Her name was Esther. But anyway, so my mother had some hardships in that period, but she made it through. She graduated from high school. She went to college. She had a best friend named Ronnie, who was gay and died in the epidemic of the 1980s during AIDS and HIV. And that was my mother's first uh, hard death. I mean, her father died when she was 5 from cancer. Um, from what I was told about it, he was a very heavy smoker. He loved smoking his pipe. So I'm assuming it was lung cancer. That was lung cancer that killed him, but that's how he died. Um, but like it's but she was 5 when that happened. But I think as far as a death is that really hurt her because she was 5 years old when her father died. So I don't she there's it's a little blurry for her with that, but she remembers how she felt when Ronnie told her that he had AIDS and how rapidly it consumed him and how fast he died. And it was very hard for her. That was her best friend. That was like a brother to her. He taught my mother how to drive in San Francisco, and driving in San Francisco is its own thing. So yeah, and by the time he died, my parents were already married, and I was born. And my mom says I met him a couple times when I was a very little one. But yeah, he died between 80, if I remember correctly from what my mother told me, he died between 85 and 86. So I was about like 2 or 3 when he died. But it's about my mom. So after he died, my mother took that death very hard, and my parents ended up separating because that death hit her in a very hard way. My dad, who was born in 1939 in the South, raised in Los Angeles, born in Louisiana, but mostly raised in Los Angeles after he moved with his sisters when he was 5. Uh, Two very different eras and generations of my parents. And my dad, although he was okay with my mom and Ronnie being friends, even though he was gay, from what I understand, it was still it's my dad still had a hard time understanding why my mother was taking Ronnie's death so hard. I think it's because my dad has seen a lot of it in his life and how he grew up that he was numb to it. So I don't think he fully understood why. And he never really had what you would consider like a best friend, someone you're really close with, because my dad would move around a lot. And my dad was very, very private with his own life. And at times, even when I was a kid trying to ask him questions about his life, he was very private about it. So understanding why. So there was a lot of arguing, and my parents ended up splitting up. And it took a while for my dad and my mom to be able to work out things that they needed to work out before they got back together. But I felt lucky as a kid that even though his parents separated, that they were actually able to get back together. So that was good. And the and my mother was able to find peace in Ronnie's death eventually as well. And then she was okay. And then as time goes on, you know. Then my grandmother passed away in '96. That was hard for her. There was my cousin Greg who passed away in 2005. In 2000, sometime between I want to say too. I really want to say December of 2004. It was December of 2004 when my cousin Greg passed away from brain cancer. Um, and then my father in January 8th, 2019. So my mother has gone through a lot in her own life, whether it's death, whether it's the surgery she had to have because of her birth defect of her one eye. Um, my mother has done the best that she has could with her own life, and even with all of that sadness, all of that death, she still pushes forward. She's still here. She's still moving forward. Um, I feel very lucky to have her as a mother because I've learned so much from her and her own experiences in life, and her strength. Even though some of the things that have happened would just take anyone down, she has found a way to come back from it and rise up from it, and at times like a phoenix rise from the ashes. So really quick, I really could just keep talking on and on, about my mother, but um, to part. Oh, there we go. One more. What's that? That one's on my father. That one's my father. Okay, here we go. So I just want to read. Do I want to read this or do I want to read that? Thank you for bearing with me here. Okay, so I'm gonna read. Yeah, I'm gonna read this part. All right. So people have come and gone from Myra's life. My mother. Life has tested her many times. Myra, my mother, has proven how brave and strong she has been. My mother is the type that takes no shit from no one, and yet even the strongest of women can go through something that can break their heart. Losing a best friend, losing a father, losing a mother, losing a nephew, losing a losing a husband. Losing these people from her life affected her in different ways. Losing the love of her life was something that took my mother down, but didn't keep her down. Each day she gets up and out of bed and gets closer to that new normal she's been looking for. How to live without her husband, but not forgetting him. My mother goes through life still living, still finding her reason to keep moving forward. So, this is my life in a nutshell. That was a little something about my mother. Link is in my bio if you'd like to check out My Life in a Nutshell, as well as many other books, short stories I have available now. I'm Anthony K. Thomas. Thank you for taking a few minutes to watch this, and I hope to see you all in that next one. Really quick, if you haven't yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can keep up when everything drops here on my AKT Publishing channel. Hit that thumbs up, leave a comment. I appreciate all of you for watching, for listening, and I will definitely see you all on that next one when I talk a little something else from my life in a nutshell. Hopefully, not too long before I do it again, but we will see. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day, enjoy the rest of your week. Hope it's fun, hope it's safe. Don't forget to take care of yourselves. Peace, y'all.